Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Clifford Winston, a senior fellow of economic studies at the Brookings Institution. Clifford, thank you so much for coming on again.
Yeah.
I think something that a lot of people perceived as a joke is now becoming a bit more serious, and that is President Trump ruminating on this idea of a third term. Because he's joked about it at rallies before, he now appears to really be considering it because reportedly in a phone call with NBC News, he said while it's still too early, a lot of people do want him to run for a third term. He's not ruling it out, and there are methods to do so. But, you recently wrote, the Supreme Court must resist Trump's threat to democracy. Talk to us about the piece.
Was sort of Trump's operations. I mean, he usually tests the waters. So he'll say something in joking, but he'll see what the reactions are. And, something like this, I'm going to run for a third term. I have no doubt people close to him said, that's a great idea, and you ought to do it. And he started throwing out suggestions on how he could be able to do it and what legal justifications he would have. So, we start with that. And, things are going to go back and forth. But, my concern is really, as this goes on, all it's going to do is brew more hostility between the two sides, if you will, MAGA and the rest of the country. And that's not good. We have enough. And I think this is an area where the Supreme Court can step in and simply say, look, this is something that's pretty cut and dry. You're not able to run. We have the 22nd Amendment. It's pretty easy to interpret. We should dispense with this. But it does not appear they're going to be doing anything like that.
I do want to read the language of the 22nd Amendment. It says, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. And the loophole that seems to be there is that term elected, because President Trump was reportedly asked about different methods, and one of the methods being Vice President J.D. Vance, he runs for president, Trump runs as vice president, and then J.D. Vance hands it on over to President Trump. I mean, how strong of an argument is that?
Response to that is you actually can't run for president with a vice president who couldn't serve as president. So yes, Vance could run, and he will, no doubt. But I think he would not be able to choose Trump as a vice president simply because then Trump wouldn't be able to serve because of the 22nd Amendment. So I think that's hard to get that one by. But my bigger point in this article, and has more to do with just everything the court does, is so much of what they do is based on their ideological preferences. This is not mathematics with cut and dry answers and serious science with theory and empirical evidence. This is what they think. And I think Judge Richard Posner put it well. You think about what the decision is that you want to reach, and you find the law to support it. And that's really pretty much what they do. And they get to do it in this case. I have no doubt that Thomas and Alito would certainly support it. I think there's a pretty good chance that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh would support it. So it really gets down to Roberts and Barrett. Are they going to go along with it? And who knows? I don't see the harm. I mean, there are counter arguments to this we can get into, of them just saying, "Holy, let's stop this, and let's not have this hanging over us for 3+ years." This is not going to go away until they say it's over. And you know how Trump is. I mean, he'll dig in on something, he will not let go. And so that really is the issue, that I'm motivating it because I am concerned in general that the justices make decisions that are based on their ideological preferences. They can justify them in terms of the law however they want, and they certainly could do it in this case. And I think it would be helpful to make a statement early rather than later.
One counter argument could be, hey, President Trump hasn't done anything formal about this. He's simply ruminating, simply floating the idea out there, seeing what is said about it. He's saying it's still too early. So what exact action would you want to see from the Supreme Court?
It generally does not make any comments about cases that are not brought before them. All right, so that's the argument right there. They shouldn't say anything because there's no case before them. This sort of breaks with ethics. They're not supposed to do that. Just general behavior by the court. Why do we need to do something like this? Okay. Couple of reasons. One, as I said, this is a source of pretty serious division in the country. And who knows how these things can flare up as things go on. Two, one knows that Trump will try to use this for leverage in any way he can. He'll hang it over people, and if he can use it to bargain in something, someone creative can think of how he could do it, maybe to get a commitment that he won't be prosecuted for any crimes after he becomes a citizen. Who knows, right? Third, I don't see the harm. I really don't. I think you could say in a very clean way, and it's not unheard of that justices make comments that had implications for cases. Just to say, look, the 22nd, have a justice say, here's my opinion of the 22nd Amendment, and simply say, somebody who served 2 terms cannot run for a third, period. That would be enough.
What justices here do you think are going to be the most important when it comes to this? Because you did float Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice John Roberts. Where do you think they would land? And have they broken with Trump before? And most importantly, have they broken with President Trump recently in the second term?
Roberts did not like Trump's call for a judge to be impeached. Because he disagreed with him on a ruling about someone, and Robert said, no, that is not the appropriate behavior or action that we do with a judge. We appeal. So he clearly has indicated his dissatisfaction with that. And Coney Barrett just recently sided with the liberal justices on a case about, again, one of Trump's actions. So I think she could think independently. MAGA let her know about it, that they didn't like what she did. So she's got to be thinking about that, I have no doubt. So those are the two who have shown that they're not completely in lockstep agreement with Trump, and they could make a statement about that. I don't know, in terms of your question, what are they likely to do? Most of the people who in the legal area who get back to me are saying, in the end, they're not going to go along with it. That they think they will uphold the 22nd Amendment, and if push comes to shove, they will say, no, you cannot run for a third term. And I hope they're right, but my feeling is still, if that's what they think, I just don't think it would be such a bad idea if they said it earlier rather than later. But a lot of people think, well, that's not what they do, which is kind of strange, given that we have the executive branch, which has broken every tradition we've ever thought of what the executive branch does. I don't see that it would be, so horrifying that the judicial branch does something different for once and says, no, you're bound by the 22nd Amendment, you can't run again.
Speaking of Trump running for a third term, I spoke with a member of Congress, Congressman Andy Ogles, who introduced a resolution to amend the 22nd Amendment, and it would allow President Trump to seek a third term. And the language was very specific. It was because President Trump didn't serve consecutive terms. But there has been, Democrats have gone really against that. Even some Republicans said that, hey, that's a long shot. That probably won't happen. Do you think that there is appetite amongst even the American people to see any president, even President Trump, serve a third term?
To be honest here, this is really sort of cult devotion that he's been able to inspire. So I have no doubt that, that 40+% would love to see him in for a third term. It's really a question, obviously, of the people in the middle. So no, I don't think. And also, they're very passionate about their views, probably more passionate than the people who oppose him. So there may be more people who oppose him, but I think the MAGA people seem to be, at this point anyway, more passionate. So yes, I think that there certainly would be a notable fraction of this country that would be happy to see him serve a third term and continue to carry on the way he's carrying on.
So let's say that the Supreme Court doesn't wade into this just yet. From the legal experts you talked to, I mean, how feasible is it that President Trump actually tries running for a third term? I mean, the 22nd Amendment is pretty cut and dry.
I think, but I think they're going to say, look, we have nothing to lose. Let's bring the case to the court, right? I mean, I don't think they anticipated when they brought the case about Trump's immunity for criminal actions while he was in office, they would get the ruling they got. They got a lot more than what they expected, right? So I think they're feeling, look, we may win this. Who knows? And so I think they will, if he wants to run again, then I have no doubt they will bring a case. And I think their attitude will be, we have nothing to lose. We may win it. They'll come up with crazy things and make the argument. And who knows what the justices are going to do. I mean, as I said, I think most likely it would be a 5-4 case as we see things now. But, you know, I'm not putting any guarantees. I don't know how anybody could.
What specifically then are you looking out for? Because as we talked at the beginning of this conversation, this seemed to start off as a joke, and now it's ratcheting up to something a little more serious. I mean, he said this is still early on. He hasn't made any formal plans, but what specifically are you looking out for next?
Depends, again, how his popularity is maintained. You know, if people like what he's doing, obviously he's very sensitive to public opinion. If somehow we get through this tariff mess, you've been speaking to people about that, so that's a long shot, but he's defeated a lot of long shots in his life, and our economics are good, and we wind up getting foreign policy settlements, reducing chances of war, ending certain fights that we have now or conflicts that we have now, all this looking good. He's going to think to himself, look, I don't want to be a private citizen. I know they're going to come after me, and they will. There's no question that any people on the left have a chance to bring back cases against him, or even new cases. They're going to do it. And he says, look, as long as I'm president, they can't touch me. So he's going to want to do it. He'll see how things obviously are going in the country. But if that's the case, then I expect that the Supreme Court will be given the case. It's going to be taken very seriously.
And to your point, I mean, no one would have thought after January 6th, after all of the legal challenges President Trump faced, that he would then be elected, win the popular vote in November. It was the biggest biggest comeback of arguably in modern history. Do you think if the Supreme Court offers their opinion now on this, do you think that's enough for President Trump to kind of back down on even commenting on running for a third term?
You know, he is. No, he'll interpret that as that's just a starting point for negotiation. But I think it would still be a valuable signal for the country that if they did that, and it made it clear, you know, we're going to oppose the law here, and you know, he's not to do this. This is a cut and dry case, and we're going to let you know now. But no, that won't stop him. He'll bring the case. But at least people will have, you know, expectations that, no, this is not going to go the way that other cases have gone that are clearly based on ideology. We know what to expect, which I think would be healthy at this point. But look, this has all been a shock to me since he's got into this. So who knows what'll happen.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look out for, and per usual, I always appreciate your insight. You are welcome back anytime. Clifford Winston, thank you for joining me.
See you again.